Okay, we're going to go over the basic proportions for the face, and we're going to use Beyonce as our example. So since we're all doing frontal portraits, we're going to start with a frontal view. And what we're going to do is we're going to divide the face up vertically. So right through the middle of her nose, middle of her face, all the way down to her chin. We're going to draw a vertical line because her face is symmetrical. The right side is very similar to her left side. If we divide and find the middle, and so we can either use a ruler and find it mathematically, or we can do it visually, we'll see that her eyes, right, are the midway point going horizontally across her face. So this distance and this distance are exactly the same. Often people think about it being the top of the forehead to the bottom of the chin, but it's actually from the top of the head down to the bottom of the chin. Sometimes you have to be careful because you are looking at hair, so you have to think about where the top of the skull actually is. So if we use the eyes as our halfway point, we can also use our eyes as the way to work on the proportions. So across this midway line, if I go and put tick marks next to her eyes, you'll notice that the space in between her eyes is an eye width apart. It's exactly the same as each of her eyes. And then from her corner of her eye to her temple, almost to her ear, is another eye width. And so across the eyes, your eyes are 5 eyes wide. Right? And then this is halfway down from the top of your head to your chin. If we were going to place the nose, you would notice that the bottom of her nose basically is halfway between the eyes and the base of her chin. And so the bottom of the nose is halfway, or it's basically in the bottom 3/4 of the portrait. If I use the eyes as a unit of measurement, and I draw little lines kind of going down here, you'll notice that her nose is 1 wide eye width as well. So basically, coming from the corners of the eyes to the edge is the width of her nose. Now, based on ethnicity, it might be wider or narrower. You can see hers is just a little bit wider, but you want to be just looking at where these actually things line up. Most of the time when people draw eyes, they draw their eyes way too big, and so then maybe their spacing of their nose is too small, so you really want to pay attention to those relationships. Now when it comes to the mouth, sadly, isn't as easy as the nose. It's basically in the top third to basically the top quarter. Kind of divide this across, and then the corners of the mouth typically line up with the midpoint of the eyes. So you can see that her mouth, she's smiling, so it's stretched out a little bit, but pretty much lines up with the inner part of her eye. So you want to pay attention to that. That makes her mouth really 2 eye widths. So it's a half of an eye plus a whole eye plus a half equals 2 eye widths. Her nose is an eye width. The last one that you should probably recognize is where to place the ears. So if you look, her ears basically line up with the top of her eyebrow. The bottom of her ear is pretty close to the bottom of her nose. So that's the basic proportions based on the photo. In the next video, we'll go over how we actually draw this.